Good afternoon. No, I was advised that there would be questions put to me.
So, hold on, I have to start with the phone first, though. So, Minister Blair will now take questions on the phone if there's any. Le ministre Blair va maintenant prendre des questions au téléphone s'il y en a. Operator? Opératrice? No? Okay, well, I'll take a question from the room then. Go, Mia.
Hi, Mr. Blair.
Hello.
Sorry, Mia Rabson from the Canadian Press. Why did it require the Information Commissioner to go public with her report for you to set a timeline for the RCMP to respond to the concerns?
Just to be clear, it didn't. This was brought to my attention on the weekend that the Information Commissioner would be submitting a report when, frankly, I take very seriously our responsibilities for transparency and adhering to the requirements. I contacted the Information Commissioner. I spoke to her this morning. I advised her of the actions that I was taking in response to her concerns. I reached out yesterday to the Treasury Board and asked them for their expert assistance, the President of the Treasury Board, to work with the RCMP to develop a plan. And I've also issued a ministerial directive to the RCMP, giving them 3 months to work with Treasury Board officials and the Information Commissioner on a work plan to resolve the issues of concern that she has raised, and that report will have to be validated by Treasury Board officials and the Information Commissioner before it's submitted to me in 3 months' time.
Can you explain why the Treasury Board is involved and why the RCMP can't just be told you have to do this?
Yeah, the RCMP, the Treasury Board actually is within the government, the agency with the greatest expertise and experience in dealing with ATIP requests. That's where the expertise is. That's why I reached out to the President of the Treasury Board yesterday. I asked them for their assistance because I believe that there are procedural and process issues that need to be resolved. We take our responsibilities to the transparency and the legislation requiring a rapid response, a timely response to those requests very seriously. I believe that the RCMP needed the assistance of that advice, and also instructed that they would work with the Chief Information Officer as well to make sure that the plan that they brought forward was validated, first of all, by the Treasury Board officials, but also satisfactory to the Chief Information Officer, and that I've given them 3 months to complete that work.
If the RCMP their entire reason for being is to uphold the law, yes, is not following a law, what does that say to Canadians about what confidence they should have in the RCMP? Well,
the RCMP Commissioner in her statement has acknowledged many of the challenges that they face in timely resolve to that, but I want to ensure that we uphold our responsibilities. Again, I take the responsibilities of all of the agencies and departments within my ministry to fulfill their legal obligations under that Act. I believe that the RCMP will benefit from the advice and support of the Treasury Board officials who actually have quite a bit of expertise and knowledge of how compliance can be achieved. And I've asked them to work together, to put together a work plan that will satisfy the concerns that have been articulated very ably by the Chief Information Officer. And I reached out to the Chief Information Officer. I explained that. She seemed, I think, quite happy and satisfied with that plan. But I've also asked for her help, because her advice will help us produce the result that will enable us to achieve the legal requirements that are placed on all government agencies.
Opératrice, avons-nous une question au téléphone? Operator, do we have a question on the phone?
Yes, thank you. Our first question, David Atkin, Global News. Your line is open. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Oh, thank you very much. Minister, I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, I can hear you fine, David.
Super, thank you. I hear what you're saying about ministerial directives and they got 3 months to do something, but I'm quoting from the report. The Information Commissioner, not, I should point out, the Chief Information Officer, but an officer of Parliament, discussed her recommendations with your office, provided 6 of them, and I'll just read you a variety of how she thought you took those recommendations. Quote, the minister's response is disappointing. Quote, the Minister of Public Safety has not committed the RCMP to implementing or adopting more innovative digital approaches. I'll continue. The minister's response on tasking is not satisfactory. The minister did not commit the RCMP to implementing an audit capacity. I've never seen an indictment from an information commissioner of a minister that you've ignored her recommendations, very specific ones, in her written report.
Thank you, David. And I want to be very clear. I did not ignore her recommendations. The commissioner's concerns were brought to my attention on Sunday. Yesterday, the first day we met, I reached out to the president of Treasury Board and raised these concerns with him, and I asked for his assistance. I also met with my officials and discussed the response of the RCMP, and as a consequence, I've issued a ministerial directive that enlists the assistance and the advice, the expertise of Treasury Board officials, and compels the Commissioner of the RCMP to develop a work plan to respond. I have now had my first conversation this morning with the Information Commissioner and outlined the plan that I have put in place, and my understanding is that she was very satisfied with that response.
I'm now just looking at some Treasury Board statistics on fulfilling access to information requests. For the fiscal year 2020, the RCMP was the worst among all department agencies with more than 1,000 requests, with a 53% closure rate. The second worst, then, if we go to all departments over 500, is also in your portfolio, and that would be Correctional Services Canada, with a 48% closure rate. The government-wide average is 83%. Are you getting enough intelligence from your officials that two of your key portfolio agencies are the worst performing departments by a long shot across government?
Well, David, if I may be clear, both of those agencies, but in particular the RCMP, deal with a number of very significant issues, and they are, as you're aware, one of the largest agencies within the Government of Canada, and they deal with matters of various elements of confidentiality, and therefore are subject to a very large number of ATIP requests. Having said that, I believe
so.
Absolutely.
It's CBSA, and it's 86% closure.
Yeah, I'm well aware of the numbers, David, because I want to assure you, as I assured the Information Commissioner, I take our transparency and ATIP requirements under the legislation very seriously, and it's why the RCMP, when they indicated to the Information Commissioner that they were unable to meet the obligations in a timely way, my response was to issue a ministerial directive and to enlist the help of Treasury Board officials to ensure that within a prescribed period of time, 3 months, that they come back with a plan which is validated by Treasury Board advice and satisfactory to the Information Commissioner as we go forward.
Operator, next question.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, David.
Opératrice, avons-nous une prochaine question?
I'd just like to remind *1 on your telephone keypad if you have a question. I have a question from Ryan Tumulty, National Post. Voting est ouvert. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Minister, the Information Commissioner's report indicates that the number of requests that are taking over a year to address has grown by 1,000%. That they responded to one requester about the Nova Scotia shooting, suggesting they had no records. I'm wondering if you think that access to information is just frankly not a priority for the RCMP, because it seems like these should have been very clear red flags to the agency well before the Information Commissioner's report, if they cared at all about access to information.
Ryan, I want to assure you that I care about access to information. I think it's an important obligation, both a legal obligation, but I think an obligation of government generally to provide information where we are able in a timely way. I recognize the importance and urgency of resolving that backlog and the delays that have been inherent for many years within the RCMP, and it's why I've undertaken to issue a ministerial directive to the Commissioner of the RCMP to work with Treasury Board officials and to return with a plan within 3 months that will resolve those backlogs and bring them into compliance with their legal requirements.
Follow up?
Yeah, I mean, the Information Commissioner also flagged that she was I'm quoting here, disappointed by the RCMP's lack of responsiveness during this investigation, and she received no communication that would convince her that the RCMP is truly ready to address these problems. Do you think rank and file RCMP or RCMP leadership had any interest prior to today in addressing the problems with ATIP.
In my conversations with the Commissioner, I think she's very well aware of her responsibilities and obligations to respond to those ATIP requests in a timely way. I think she was also facing a number of challenges with respect to resource and process, which I've undertaken to resolve. That's exactly why we sought and obtained Treasury Board assistance and expertise in assisting the RCMP and working with the oversight of the Information Commissioner to develop a work plan to resolve those deficiencies that have given rise to this. And I've asked the Commissioner to report back to me exactly what changes she will make in process and procedure and what resources are also required in order to bring the RCMP into compliance with their legal obligations. I want to assure, as I did today to assure the Information Commissioner, I want to assure Canadians we see this responsibility with great seriousness, and we are taking the steps that are required to resolve the concerns articulated by the Information Commissioner and to make sure that the RCMP can fulfill its obligations.
This is all the time we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.